Welcome to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. Your host, a behavioral scientist and bachelor, talks to leading experts and successful singles about living solo and living well. Travel more, make things, sleep in when you want to. Here's the playbook for the person who is unapologetically unattached. Now, please welcome Dr. Peter McGraw.
Welcome back. This episode welcomes Michael Buckley, a remarkable solo, former YouTube star, and now life coach who coaches humanness, not happiness. Michael talks about his process of realizing that being single is an amazing choice, but he had to get past the nagging thought that, quote unquote, it would be nice to have someone. We talk about his breakthrough and how it changed how he subsequently thought and behaved. He dispenses some helpful advice, such as how to go to a movie alone, and how to move on from an unsatisfying relationship. One more thing before we start, Solo has its second sponsor, Wax Crescent, a Boulder-based company that makes small batch candles, hand-poured. Founded by a solo entrepreneur and contributor to the podcast, Kim Tarabil, her candles are made with soy wax and infused with wonderful fragrances and essential oils, and each candle's topped with a crystal, which I think is pretty cool, a crystal. Kim sells some other hippy-dippy stuff out there too, but don't worry, gentlemen, Wax Crescent has guy-friendly candles also, or as I like to call them, mandals. Use Solo20 for 20% off your first order at waxcrescent.com. That's Solo20 at waxcrescent, like a crescent moon.com. All right, here we go. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Let's get started. Welcome to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. I'm Peter McGraw. Today's guest is Michael Buckley. We are overdue to have a remarkable single person as a guest, someone who is unapologetically unattached, and Michael is that person. He was one of the first generation of online stars as the award-winning host of the What the Buck Show, which ran for 10 seasons on YouTube. Buck was hand-selected to be one of the first YouTube partners in 2007. His content garnered over 400 million video views. He's the best-selling author of Help, My Kids Want to Become a YouTuber. He is happily retired from YouTube, happily divorced, and enjoying his career as a life coach. Welcome, Michael.
Oh my God, I'm remarkable. I'm single. I'm happily all of it. That was such a lovely intro. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Peter. I'm so excited to talk about all these things with you.
Well, we found each other. I found you when someone alerted me to the following tweet you sent. It says, "This is also the first time in my life I looked at single as an amazing choice versus in the back of my mind, I always thought, but it would be nice to have someone because I was brainwashed to think in love equals good/better. Being consciously, deliberately single is an amazing choice." And
yeah,
I had someone,
that was the tweet.
That was the tweet where we got connected. And it's just so, well, first of all, it's refreshing for someone else besides my listeners to have that opinion, and then to say it so proudly and publicly.
Thank you. I know. And I mean, I've been doing this work on myself for the last couple years. And I do think there was always that one thought that kept derailing the other thoughts. And when I finally caught that thought, which was, but it would be nice to have someone, that was the thought that kept tripping me up. So I feel like I kept, trying to talk the talk and walk the walk, but it wasn't really clicking. And then once that thought kind of went away, it was like, oh, it all started clicking. So that was kind of the last thought that was holding me back from truly embracing life as a single person.
How quickly from realizing that, but it would be nice to have someone, to recognizing that was your sort of roadblock, to tweeting that? What was the distance in time between the recognition and the tweet?
Do you remember when I tweeted it?
I'd have to look back.
All I know is I was working on this for the last maybe 3 years. I've been divorced for 5 years, and I have not really dated for the last 2 or so years. And when I would take breaks from dating or breaks from online apps, it was still kind of like in my brain, I was taking a break. I wasn't really sold on the idea of being single. And I'm looking at my journal from, April of this year, and something that I wrote to myself was, I do feel single. I wrote, my great life, work, and purpose do not involve having a boyfriend. I also wrote, my 40s are for me. It's interesting because I feel like when I was journaling about this, all of my 20s was dating or having a boyfriend, and then meeting my ex-husband at the age of 26, immediately deciding to get married, and then spending the next 13 years married. So it's interesting now being 45 and just really being single for the last 5 years, or most of the last 5 years. And so really, after I got divorced, trying to be okay being single, but really not, like jumping right into a 9-month relationship, and then still always thinking I should be with somebody. I'm a great catch, but I don't know. And so just earlier this year, the click was, I like being single. I want to be single, but then I would think, because of my brainwashing for the first few years of my life, but it would be nice to have somebody. And then when I realized, my 40s are for me, that was the thought that kind of really helped solidify it, because it was like, this is for me. It's not for me and a partner, which feels very different than just being single because I can't find somebody. So again, that's why when I use the words conscious and deliberate, that's what really makes it click. Like, I'm not accidentally single. I'm not single because I've run out of options. I'm not single because I don't believe in love. I'm not single because I think it's dumb to be married or coupled. I think it's wonderful. But I think for me at age 45, I belong being single. So when I'm looking at my journal, it was earlier this year. And then even maybe a month later, I kept solidifying it, and I wrote, I'm meant to be single. Like, I wrote that down. I'm meant to be single. I feel, again, I reminded myself I'm more able to live in line with my purpose and achieve my great life goals as a single person. And I wrote, I never feel alone. I'm surrounded by love. And I wrote, I'm in a deeply committed relationship with myself, which again, it sounds so goofy, but it is the way I feel. And it's so wonderful because I love myself. So why wouldn't I want to be in this very, beautiful relationship with myself, that it's hard to be in that, if not impossible, when you're trying to do that with another person, So I feel like it's such a luxury to have this single life.
There's so many things that are popping to my mind that we've talked about on the podcast, that I've been writing about and working on. I think one is, it reminds me of one of my favorite Oscar Wilde quotes, which is, to love oneself is to begin a lifelong love affair. It's from actually a rom-com that he wrote with a sort of bachelor, a sort of single focused gentleman in it. But I think it's interesting, the sort of pushback, or even just hearing how hard it is for people to say how committed they can be to themselves first.
Right.
That all of the media messages and all of the pressure is for you to find someone else to commit to. And the idea that you can be focused on yourself, and as you said, your mission in life, the things that you want to accomplish, and that you want to put those things first, it's weird to have to apologize for that, or have to feel strange about it, or have to work on it in a journal in order to accept it, when I would like to see that as the default. So the default is you're committed to yourself and to making your life as good as possible. And if someone comes along that you feel that special connection with, and that you want to share that life with, I think that sounds really wonderful and good. As I like to say, solo's not anti-marriage, it's pro-single. Now, is this sort of orientation kind of a new recognition that you've had, or have you always sort of been kind of a solo mentality even when you were partnered up and married?
I was, and I'm someone who loves being alone, as outgoing and not even outgoing, because that's not true. Like, I present as outgoing, like I'm very charismatic. And I think if I've learned anything about myself lately, is that I'm very friendly, but not very social. So It's interesting because even when I was with somebody, I love being alone. I love when they would go and leave and I would be alone. I love to be alone to watch TV. I'm the type of person, I go to the movies by myself. I go to dinner by myself. I went to the Botanic Gardens this week and walked around by myself for 3 days in a row. I love the company of myself. And it's interesting because, again, as a life coach, when I'm talking to someone, I always think, again, if you're looking for a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a lot of times we're looking for an external solution to an internal problem, which might be drugs or alcohol or a partner. And again, right, if you don't love yourself, there's not enough love in the world from a partner or a stranger on the internet or somebody or a friend or a parent that's going to make you feel that. So again, it has to be an active daily practice to like and love yourself on purpose. And again, as goopy as that sounds, if you don't do that right, it's going to show up out in weird behaviors or weird relationships. And it's amazing. People don't do work on themselves and they just throw themselves into relationships. And then they wonder after 4 marriages or constant dating for 10 years, why? What's going wrong here? Oh, men are terrible. Women are crazy. Oh no, it's you.
It's you.
So, yeah,
Yes.
I always tell people you're the problem and you're the solution, because if you're not the problem, you're screwed. Again, otherwise I need to get rid of my job or get rid of my partner so I can do something versus no, I can solve this. And like you were saying too, like I did feel brainwashed. I feel like I got out of a cult of like marriage is good, divorce is bad, love is security, single is lonely. Bull crap. That is what we're, again, rom-coms, books. It's so disempowering. So again, once you're out of that mindset, you're like, oh my God, it feels so liberating and it feels so freeing. And like you said, I'm not anti-marriage. I'm a minister. I've married 8 couples. I celebrate marriage, but I also think it's also too celebrated in terms of like when people get divorced, we should celebrate. When people call off an engagement, we should celebrate. Right. Because again, that it's very easy to get engaged. Oh my God, I've known you for 3 months and you gave me a ring. Sure. It's very challenging and uncomfortable to break off a 2-year engagement and be like, yep, you're not the one for me. How beautiful that choice is. So again, I think the more we talk about this stuff and people hear it, it's like, oh, right. Marriage is marriage. Divorce is divorce. Love is what you make it. Single life is what you make it. It doesn't mean lonely. For me, I've never felt so happy. I've never felt so fulfilled. I've never felt so connected to myself and my purpose. And yeah, like, and again, I'm not anti-love. I'm not anti-marriage. I'm not hitching my heart star to the wagon of I will never be with anybody. But for the next couple years, yeah, this is it. You know, and I think like you said too, it's bonus, it's extra. Like my life is so fulfilling. If I happen to spend someone I enjoy time with, that's bonus, that's extra versus, like, can you imagine when they stand up there and when we get married, I was nothing till I met you.
I know.
My life was so unfulfilling, and then you came along and saved me from the minutia. Again, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that sounds horrible.
You know what it is once you, it's so fascinating as I have these conversations, and it's actually really uplifting to talk to you, Michael, because not only your energy, and I like this term unapologetic, you're not going to apologize for how you are thriving, you know, how you're flourishing in this life. I think it's so first of all, I think we do the world, and especially young people and old people and middle-aged people, actually, a disservice by saying you are incomplete when you're not partnered. And so as a result of that, you have you have huge swaths of life where you are a less than, you know? And so you're right. So I like this term for now or forever. So you're single by choice.
Yes.
And it's for now. It might be forever. You don't have to decide. Some people, it's forever. They just know that they're not the marrying type, the partnering type, you know, whatever, for whatever reason, and that they would be less happy as a result of that. And my last comment listening to you is this: why aren't we having harder conversations about how risky it is to partner up? So the nice thing about myself is I'm a sure thing. You know what I mean? Like, I always say yes. I always want to do what I want to do. I'm not worried about someone ruining my life, so to speak. You know what I mean? And You say the idea is that, yes, there's a big upside potentially of partnering up, but there's also a big downside. And so the idea that someone would go through an engagement, which is meant to be an assessment of how good a partner this person is going to be, and ends up going through with the marriage and the wedding because they're afraid of disappointing friends, family, and that partner is, I feel bad for these people. And so if we could change the conversation and have people comfortable with their singleness, I like this term single by choice.
Yeah.
When you're single by choice, it's very easy to be happy.
Yes.
And that's where it sounds like a switch flipped for you.
Yeah. And I also think it's so silly when we say, I love you till death do us part, and then we keep getting married. It's like, I love you until I change my mind. Like, it's not that people think love is, flowers and sex and it's all these amazing things, but it's really just, I thought something about you. And then 2 years later, I thought something different about you. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. Relationships are thoughts. Why were you so delightful for 2 years? 2 years later, I just thought, no, not the one for me. So again, we act like it's so, again, in every romantic song is so disempowering, and it's so again, we are brainwashed. And again, even getting married, obligation is the lowest form of motivation. So when you see people who've been married for 20 years and they have this look on their face, they barely talk to each other, they sleep in separate beds, we stay together for the kids, they're not the great love of each other's lives. And I remember in 1998, I was living on Cape Cod and I was doing theater, and this man who was like doing theater with me, it was in a very unhappy marriage, but he had a million friends and he literally lived like an independent whatever person. And he looked at me, and I was 23 years old, and he said, Michael, how many married people do you know? Think of all of our friends in our peer group. How many married couples can you think of that seem happy together? Mm-hmm. None of us could come up with one, this lovely man who was a dentist and, Peter Blank, and yes, them. But everybody else, of the gazillions of couples we were social with, how many of them really seem to be enjoying life together? I love when I'm at the airport and I see people and you can just tell, it's like, oh, they just met. Oh, that's the third wife. It's like they can't keep their hands off of each other. But it's interesting. And I think if you are going to be married for 60 years, that's lovely. And if you are going to be married for 20 years, that's lovely. But it's every year is a recommitment to the idea. And I think you should check in with each other. How's it going? Versus we signed up for this in it till the end. It's like, but it's not working. So it's like, do we go to therapy and beg each other to be different? Or do we just accept that, like when I got divorced, the only thing I ever think about my marriage, again, and this is, again, I have a coaching brain. All I ever think was he adored me. We had a lovely 13 years together.
That's nice.
All I ever think.
That's
so
great.
Again, I don't think, I should have done this. I should have done that. I could have done this. Or even, we were a bad match. But whatever the BS story, the only thing I ever think about it was we had a nice 13 years together and it came to completion. That's the other thing. I love the concept in friendship and relationships of completion. So many people think, I need closure. No, you don't. I need to message them on Facebook 10 years later and ask them what happened. Nothing happened. It was meant to last 2 months or 2 years or 2 minutes, and that was all it was meant to be. So I think that helps my brain too, because I'm not, I don't know. And like you said, there is a consequence. Nobody tells you get married. There's an emotional consequence. There's a financial consequence. And that's why the older I get too, it is a transaction financially. I am 45 years old. I'm not going to have children. I think it's lovely that we fought to get married for me as a gay person, but I've already been married. I don't think I'm dying to get married again. Yeah. Like, if I dated someone for a couple of years and they said it's very important to me, I might say, okay, but again, I'm 45, I'm divorced. I'm good, So
let me ask you a little bit more about this idea of completion versus closure. So the idea is that people, I understand the notion of closure, like the thing, like you want to kind of put a bow on it, so to speak, and get it out there and get beyond it. But so when you're coaching someone, tell me about how you coach them about completion.
Well, it's almost like the same as forgiveness. Like, I forgive you and I move on. I say forgiveness is a decision, not a process. Because again, otherwise, what am I going to do? Go to therapy and ramble for 20 years about how you did me wrong and how I need to, it's a process. I need to meet someone else, or I need to No, it's a decision. So again, I believe forgiveness is a decision. I believe closure is a decision. You don't need an answer. Imagine if I'm dating somebody and it doesn't work out, and then like 3 months later, I feel the need to ask them what happened. I don't need, again, you don't need to know. Because again, their reason is, again, it's 3 to 5, maybe different things. You think you need to hear it versus I can just decide right now, we were together for 3 months. That was what it was meant to be. Thank you for your time, versus dragging this out in your head. That's, again, for any friendship or relationship, it generally runs its course. It's not anything deeper than that. If someone, remember, you should know why I'm mad at you, or you should know why it ended. None of us are psychic. This is communication too. People are poor married couples are married 20 years, and the wife is so irritated. The husband, he doesn't know after 20 years. He's not psychic. That's the problem too. We get married and we assume that our spouse is going to be our therapist and our psychic and our best friend. And it's like, no, you're my spouse. I just want you to be my spouse. Now I'm just rambling. But
no,
anyway, I think closure, forgiveness, it's a concept that I believe it's not something, again, I don't need it. I get your brain wants it. Your brain wants to put a bow on it, or your brain wants to understand. I'm coaching someone now who's about to leave their spouse, and the spouse doesn't understand. And I keep saying to her, he doesn't need to understand you're leaving. Yeah. Like, again, I love you. I like you. Please move out. Again, I love you. I like you. Please understand. When we're trying to get people to understand, it's like, good luck. Again, we have to seek to understand to be understood. But I think in relationships, like, again, there's nothing deeper than I love you, I like you. It's been a great 10 years. I didn't cheat on you. I'm not disappointed. You're whatever. It's just, I loved you for 10 years and now I would like to be single. Mm-hmm. Or there's nobody else. When I got divorced, my father said, please don't tell me you have a boyfriend. I said, Daddy, I've been married for 13 years. The last thing I need is a boyfriend. But anyway.
I think there's wisdom in that idea. First of all, I think anytime you have a breakup and the person wants to know why, I think it's often hard for people to give the reasons. They end up becoming hurtful. So to me, I always just say, no is no. No more is no more. I like that idea of you appreciated what you had and it comes to an end. I'm a big believer in we have chapters in life. Some chapters are long and some chapters are short. But part of life is moving forward to the next chapter. And I like the way you're talking about this. I think it's helpful for people.
Yeah, and I think I could give you a million reasons why I don't want to be with you. Do you want me to list them all? Like I don't know. I don't see myself with you. That's what I used to when I used to date people for a brief amount of time. That ended up being like, I don't see myself with you. I see you as a friend. I see you as a lovely person I've enjoyed hanging out with, but I don't see this going any further. So again, and I am, there's something about being my age where it's like, I'm just not, when I was dating a couple of years ago, I don't need someone just to spend time with. Like, if it's not going to be like this amazing, my life feels spectacular. So if someone wishes to partner with me, I hope they show up spectacular and not someone who, again, they're looking for me to complete them, which again, someone like me who is charismatic and lovely and compassionate, people do misread that as maybe I should date Buck. No, I should just be a great friend and mentor and lovely person in your life. You don't need to try to date me.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem, I think, Yeah. So this idea of this realization. So I've been using this term, the recognition. So you have this moment of recognition, and I think it comes in different ways. So it sounds like for you, the recognition came through journaling and writing and self-reflection. I think some people it comes through. I've actually had people emailing me and messaging me about there's a moment listening to this podcast. For example, there's a episode called the Getting Off the Relationship Escalator, and it's about the sort of prototypical exemplar relationship in society and the sort of criteria, the rules of that relationship, the status that it has, the difficulty that some people have riding the relationship escalator, and they realize, I don't want that. Right? Like once it gets laid out that they're not looking for monogamy, they're not looking for consistency, they're not looking for what's called merging, coming together, and or the special status. That is that they don't want to have a relationship that is put above all their other relationships, right? They don't want to have to vacation with this person,
right?
And so on. They have a moment where they recognize the human domestication, right? That we are being domesticated by the world to get us to behave and act in certain ways. And when you have that moment of recognition, what I argue it should lead to is reinvention. That is, suddenly you are playing by a whole different set of rules. And I'm curious for you, does this feel like a reinvention? Have you reinvented yourself, your attitude, your behavior, the way you live in any way as a result of this recognition?
Totally. And I think besides the journaling and when I look back in the self-reflection, I kind of think about how I was on dates, and I was kind of jerky. Like I didn't want to go to dinner. I hate going to dinner. I hate small talk. So again, I would sit there and I had this, like, I dare you to say something. But then the realization now is, oh, I didn't want this. Mm-hmm. So again, the brain isn't very good at knowing what it wants. That's why, oh, I want a Mercedes. You buy a Mercedes. You're like, did I want this? Oh, I get married and do I want this? I bought it. Our brain isn't great at knowing what it wants. And then we get it and we're like, crap, did I even want this? So I think for me, it was also the recognition of I was going through the motions of a heteronormative, seeking love life. And it did feel like once I stopped, it was like, oh. So again, recognizing that. And then also, like you said, I do believe when I got married in 2002, especially as a gay person, I was like, oh, good. People will regard me higher. I made the better life choice. You all know gay people. They're wild. They do drugs. They have lots of sex. But look at me, fooled y'all. I'm living a monogamous suburban life in Connecticut. You're welcome. So I really felt this weird heteronormative ideal to aspire to. And then it's interesting because the moment I got divorced, I was wild. So again, I went from monogamously married for 13 years to let's go to the bathhouse. Let's have fun. There's not enough. And so it's interesting now that I've come around. It's kind of like I knew I would have to reconfigure myself because I had lived monogamously married, and then I was almost playing the role of wild, hypersexual single person. I had confused being sex positive with almost, again, being wild. But for me now, I've been celibate since December, and that's like another layer of it because like I could have casual sex and I think people think that too when they if you hear, oh, gay single guy, he just wants to be wild. I'm like, no, I just want to be alone. So it's interesting how I have reconfigured myself. And again, my life is so mindful and deliberate and purposeful. I think intentionally, I feel intentionally, I create intentionally, I eat intentionally. Everything I do is intentional. So again, now I don't want to just be having random sex because that doesn't fit in with who I am. Again, I'm not shaming myself for doing that. I loved every second of it. I have a lot of fun doing it. But at this stage in my life, I don't really want to be having sex even. I don't want any sort of, again, my relationships are just different. Like, and then again, that's the thing, being a gay person is when you're out, it's like it's very flirty and it's very easy. And so I love that I've taken myself out of them. I'm not an option. I will not date with you. I will not sleep with you. I will just be a great friend and an important person in your life. So I definitely have done a lot of reconfiguring and reassessing. And I love that. And I love that, again, at 45 years old, I'm always gently evolving into new versions of myself. So who I was at 23 is nothing like 33 and nothing like 43. And when I meet me at 53, I'll look at him too and say, what do you want, Buck? But again, I'm always checking in with myself. And right now, it suits me and it serves me to be a very happily off the market solo person.
I love it. I really do like this idea of reinvention. Why not? What better time than the middle of your life, knowing what you know and being comfortable with who you are. One of the things that drew me to you and made me want to have you on as a guest, besides the fact that you're unapologetic about this, which is really refreshing to have someone own it and own it publicly, is your positive attitude and your charisma. But You also are very good about acknowledging, and my guess is this comes from your coaching, is that life can be hard. Like life can be really difficult. And so you have this sort of 1-2 punch of like, go out there, mix it up, have a great time. This is an amazing world, but boy, can it be hard. And that's okay. Where does that come from?
I mean, I coach humanness, not happiness. Like I'm here for the human experience. And so the human experience includes many amazing things and many terrible things, but exactly what you make it. So again, my brain is wired to be very proactive and very positive. And again, I don't add, again, I always say the place could burn down. The worst part is the uncomfortable emotion. Your wife could leave you tomorrow. The only thing that's the problem is the heartbreak. So again, one of the things in my personal mission statement is I use my emotions as superpowers. So something about being a coach is I'm very good at allowing my negative emotions, and I'm also really good at creating my positive emotions on purpose. And that is a skill that I've worked on over the years. So yeah, but again, my mother died very young. I'm divorced. I've been through things, but I love them. I'm not like, oh, these are the sad parts of my life and these are the happy parts of my life. These are the parts of my life. I always say messy me greatly informs thriving me. It's not like you go to therapy or coaching or read a great book or listen to a podcast and suddenly it's like, I'm thriving. It's like, I love all the years that I was in self-doubt and confusion and messy drunkenness and whatever, because that inspired me to be this version of myself. Mm-hmm. But I do think the suffering is always optional. I think the thing is the suffering is always optional. And, you know, that's why, like, I don't really, when I work with people, I can tell it's like, do you want to work on this or do you just want like to complain? And so again, when you said life is hard, like, I don't think that. I think life is what you decide to make it. I think life is hard is like when I talk to people and they say that, I always think, well, there's no upside to that. I know you think your brain is protecting you from disappointment later, but I don't think life is hard. I think life is exactly what you decide to make it. Which again, that thought feels way more empowering than life is hard. Life is what you just, for some people, life is easy. For some people, life is hard. For some people, no, they have no self-awareness. So life is, I don't even know. I'm just going through the motions.
I see. That's really good. I do agree with you about this idea that your negative emotions serve you also. I
love my negative emotions.
Yes, they're signals.
Did you ever see the movie Inside Out?
Yes, right.
That is $20,000 worth of free life coaching. At the end of it, when she says, well, I guess I would never know what a happy day was if I never had a sad day. And I'm crying and I'm looking around and I'm like, I hope these parents are talking to their children about emotional intelligence. If we were only ever having positive emotions, we would not know we were having positive emotions. We need the contrast. So again, what makes abundance feel so amazing is because we know what scarcity feels like. If we didn't know what, hate felt like, we wouldn't know what love felt like. So again, people who just want happiness, you're missing out, man. I wouldn't know what it felt like to be successful if I didn't know what it felt like to be a huge flop. I love that I've had both experiences in my life.
I think that's really great. One of the questions I have for you is, in my research, I noticed a couple cool things, and I'm wondering how much of them are connected to this reinvention of yourself, or how much of them are just Michael Buckley in general. So one of them is you seem to be into minimalism. Like you really like this idea of living a minimal lifestyle. And then the other one is that you are abstinent at the moment, but you're also not drinking at the moment, or not drinking much. And I'm curious, are those independent of your soloness or are they connected?
It's interesting because the minimalism definitely helps because I feel like I love living a simple life. And it's dating and being in a relationship is not very simple. And so I think it really plays along with that. I remember just being married and just being a couple, and we had 2 houses and we had 2 basements and we had 2 attics, and it just felt like we had so much crap. And so I really just like having very few things. And so I think that definitely plays a part in it because having a person around is not minimal. It's tough, or they'd have to be really into minimalism too. The not drinking thing is definitely a huge part of my life. So I haven't drank since June of 2017. And I feel like that I don't identify as sober. I just identify as a happy non-drinker. And it really did change my life. And I feel like that was something that my life was, I don't know, like I feel the moment I stopped drinking, life became very clear. And also I think the reason that I'm celibate now is because I am someone who's very good at giving things up. And so it was easy for me to stop drinking. I stopped eating fast food. I stopped, drinking diet soda. I am an all-in person. So I jokingly say, when I remember the first day I showed up at my flag football team back in 2018, I said, I'm either going to sleep with all of you or none of you. So again, I'm all in. I either want all of you or none of you. So for my personality, it's like I'm either going to do it or I'm not going to do it. So I love not having sex. I love not drinking. I love having a very simple life full of no knickknacks and very little clutter.
Yeah, no, that's so fascinating. I do think that you live life well, right? You're good at life.
I'm very good at life. Yes, I definitely have lived a very lovely, delightful, very, 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 I don't know. When I look at my life, I do. One of my default thoughts on my little Post-it is, I'm so lucky this is my life. I think that, I feel that every day.
Yeah, certainly we want our life coaches to be good at life. So you've really picked the right career as you've pivoted away from being, we have a mutual friend would say, being a web celebrity. And so that's Kevin Nolte. We have a mutual acquaintance or friend. Yes. Yes.
Kevin is. Yes. I love Kevin. I've known him for years. I haven't seen him in years, but yes, we were definitely navigating web celebrity, internet stardom, YouTube sensation, whatever the heck they were calling us back in 2007. And so, yes, that's actually, he messaged me, or he pointed you out to me. So I believe that's how we became Twitter friends, because he tweeted at me when I tweeted that, and that's how you saw it. So thank you, Kevin Nolte.
And Kevin is a previous guest as a remarkable solo. He was in the Kevin 2.0. So he's newly divorced and reinventing himself at the moment too. It's interesting how these things can work out. So I want to go through and, well, I have a question for you, Michael, and that is, do you ever light a candle to relax or energize yourself?
I light candles all day, every day. I have a candle behind me that I light first thing in the morning, and then I'm looking over at my coffee table, and I have a candle lit right now.
Wow! So this is warm weather candles for you. This is warm days right now. So I do that too. And I have good news for our Solo listeners, and that is Solo has a new sponsor, Wax Crescent. Wax Crescent makes small batch candles, hand poured, just north of you, Michael, in Boulder, Colorado. The company is founded by a solo entrepreneur and contributor to the podcast, Kim Terabeel. If anybody's listened to episode 1, you'll know Kim's voice. Her candles are made with soy wax and infused with wonderful fragrances and essential oils. Each candle is topped with a crystal, which I think is pretty cool. And I'm not into the hippy dippy stuff. Speaking of which, Wax Crescent also offers other hippy dippy stuff like ritual boxes for your sacred space. And don't worry, gentlemen, Wax Crescent has guy-friendly candles too, or as I call them, mandals. My favorite mandals are Wild Wonder and Imagine. So use SOLO20. That's the discount code SOLO20 for 20% off your first order at waxcrescent.com. That's SOLO20 at waxcrescent, like a crescent mood.com. So
can I make a suggestion?
Of course.
Can you please update your Twitter bio, and can it just say, not into that hippy dippy stuff? That's all I wish to know about you.
I'm into like meditation and of those things, but not the full on hippy dippy treatment.
I am not as well. So I was chuckling when you were saying that. I'm not into that hippy dippy stuff.
No one's rubbing a crystal on my body. But but I do want some advice from you for the listeners who want to lean on your solo-ness and on your life coachingness, if you don't mind. So the first one is, do you have advice for people who aren't comfortable dining alone or aren't comfortable going to the movies alone? How do you dine alone well? How do you go to the movies alone well?
I think the best thing to do is, again, this is a great opportunity to work on your self-confidence, because there's something about putting yourself in emotional harm's way on purpose. So know that you might or definitely will have some anxiety, but that doesn't mean don't do it. So it's a great opportunity for yourself to go allow an uncomfortable emotion on purpose and eat and have a wonderful time. And then as you do it, you are creating evidence as you go. Oh, look, I am the type of person who can go out to eat alone. I am the type of person who can go to the movies alone. And again, all your brain is doing before you go is, what will people think of me?
Mm-hmm.
Will someone think that I was stood up? And again, no one's thinking that. There's a great quote: when you're 20, you care about what people think of you. When you're 40, you don't care what people think of you. And when you're 60, you realize no one's been thinking of you. And so it's so funny when you're young, you're like, everyone's looking at me. No one's looking at you. So again, allow the uncomfortable emotion on purpose and imagine who you will be on the other side of this. Keep creating evidence. I am the type of person who easily and happily goes out by myself. That's your new best friend for a thought.
I think that's great. I also like to dine alone and do it often. I go to coffee shops alone. I like going to the movies alone, and it's great. And I think that you're right. There's actually a study that looks at what's called the spotlight effect. Essentially, it's the idea that we believe that the world is looking at us, judging us, like there's a big spotlight on us, and that's far from the truth. And they do this experiment. There's a really great experiment where they have like 6 undergraduates engaged in a conversation. They randomly assign one of them to wear a Barry Manilow t-shirt. So you have to imagine you're 20 years old, you're wearing a Barry Manilow t-shirt and having this conversation. And then what they do is they ask everybody, all the other 5 people, was someone wearing a Barry Manilow t-shirt? Yes or no? If so, who? And they ask the person wearing the Barry Manilow t-shirt, how many people notice that you're wearing a Barry Manilow t-shirt? The person wearing the t-shirt, who has the spotlight on them in their opinion, says like 4 or 5 people have to notice it. Everyone sees this shirt. And then what usually ends up happening is like there's like 1, maybe 2 people. And they don't even get it right who the person was wearing it, right? So we are way too focused on what other people think about us.
Nobody is noticing your pimple. Nobody is noticing you wore the same dress last week. Go onward in the world. Everybody is staring at themselves and in their own. No. Yeah. I love Barry Manilow. Hope he's listening.
And so the next thing I wanted to ask you is, suppose you're a listener and you've come to this recognition about the relationship escalator, and there's some element around the escalator that you don't want. Maybe you don't want the merging, right? So you want to be in the relationship, but you don't want to merge your finances or live together. Or maybe you don't want to give that relationship the special status that the world wants to bestow it. And so, for example, you get invited to a wedding and you want to invite a friend who would be better for that wedding than your partner, and so on. How do you suggest people have those conversations with their partners, or even set up those expectations as they start dating or getting to know someone?
I think you should both write down what I want my relationship to look like. Okay. And then you write it down, whether it's children or finances or spending weekends apart, or are we going to live together, all of that. And then compare and agree that it doesn't need to look alike. It's just we're seeking to understand each other. And then you both have it in writing in front of you. And no, we can change our mind every 2 months, every 2 minutes. So I'm always checking in with my partner. You still want kids? You still want to live together? You still don't want to, use money? Again, people don't know. We just assume our partner can read our mind, or, oh, he should know I want kids. Why? He should know that it's important for me to go away with my best friend. Why? The other thing is, I love the concept of a want match. You can have a partner who is not the be all end all. So imagine there's a pie. my husband is my person to spend my nights with, to have sex with, and to go to blah, 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 blah. But I've got this friend, and they're the one I talk to about politics. And I've got this friend, and we go to the theater together. And I've got so again, why do we put this pressure on our partner to be the absolute one? And then, I have to cheat because I have to find someone who meets all my needs. And again, as a life coach, I tell you, all my needs are met by me. I make me happy. I make me secure. And then you just get to enjoy me. And I just get to enjoy you. So again, that's true emotional adulthood, because otherwise we're just dragging each other into therapy and trying to get each other to be different so we can love each other more, versus you don't have to compliment me. You don't have to take the garbage out. You don't need, again, I can set some expectations, but then I'm responsible for managing my emotions when they're not met. So again, I think being very clear, be very specific, and constantly checking in with each other, because the rules might change. Suddenly, maybe I want polyamory. Maybe I want to go away 1 weekend a year without you. Does it mean I don't want to be with you? Nope. It just means I want to go away for the weekend. Yay!
Yeah, I think that's really good. It's such an evolved thing to get to that point, because these kind of relationships are given such special status, and there's so much pressure for you to stay together, right? It's a failure if you have a breakup, right? I'm with you. When someone says they got divorced, I say congratulations.
Same.
Yeah. And, but these are, and of course emotions are involved, and we're trying to maximize the positive ones and minimize the negative ones. And so it's scary to ask someone that you're beginning to date, that you're excited about, someone you've been dating, to really reveal your soloness to that person. Because first of all, they may not understand, because they've been watching the same rom-coms, reading Jane Austen, and so on their entire life. And so it is this sort of weird thing where on one hand, you're scared to be rejected. You're scared to not have that connection, because if you have good taste, this is a good person. On the other hand, you're scared that fear is keeping you from being the person that you authentically are, and to have the wants that you want to have.
Right. And so it's almost like going out to dinner by yourself. You have to allow the fear on purpose. Fear means go. Fear means don't shut down. Again, your brain naturally produces self-doubt and worry and fear. So if you're going to work on this, you have to account for that and know, but I am going to put myself in harm's way emotionally by bringing this up. Otherwise, you're just tricking people. I tricked him into marrying me. And then what? Maybe 5 years later, I'll be honest about, I want to have a threesome with a girl, or, I like recreational drugs, or, I have this terrible story from my past I was too embarrassed to tell you. So again, the more you show up your authentic self in the world, the more you're going to attract an ideal partner, or an ideal friend group, an ideal career, because otherwise you're just people pleasing and trying to get people to like you, and they don't even know you. So again, I want to be honest with myself. I want to be honest with the person I'm dating. And I also want to create that space with asking my partner, checking in. How are you? What can I be doing different? Is this what you want? And again, risking that uncomfortable, cringy moment of, no, I want something different now. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I reject you. It just means I'm 50 now and I see the world differently. So again, God forbid, that's the problem too, is people grow and evolve and their partner doesn't. I was coaching someone the other day, and the husband said to her something along the lines of, I like the girl I married. And I'm like, oof, you're screwed. Because again, so you got married at 22 and now you're 40 and he doesn't like you anymore. Oh, well, it's like you've evolved and changed into this amazing woman, and he doesn't like that. He liked you not working. He liked you not having opinions. He liked you. So again, if I'm going to marry someone, that really, I love you regardless of you. I love you regardless of you. That's it. I get to love you every day. If you have a new hobby, if you have a new friend, I'm not threatened by it. I'm inspired by it. Yeah. Imagine if more people could be that. I'm not threatened by my partner's success. I'm inspired by it. Oh, she has needs outside of our marriage. Good for her for communicating them and going after her dreams. God forbid she's sitting home at night because she made me vows 20 years ago that neither of us really care about anymore.
I want to reiterate a piece of wisdom that you started off with by saying is going to the movies alone and facing that fear and that discomfort is a lot like asking for what you want as a solo in a relationship. I like that those are parallel acts where you're going to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation in order to do the thing that you want, and that in the long run, you're going to be better off for doing it. That's a big idea, Michael.
Yeah, and you don't need to get the outcome you want to have the emotion you want. Again, happiness leads to success, not the other way around. So if you ask for something or you chase a dream and you don't get the outcome, you still get to be proud of yourself. That's amazing. Like, again, I'm just telling you, buddy, as my spouse, this is what I want. You don't need to get what you want in order to be satisfied and to be proud of yourself for asking for it.
Yeah, I'm a big believer, especially now where I believe that the process is really what matters. Mm-hmm. Almost everything that I've done in my life that I've been satisfied with hasn't been this gleeful, over the moon feeling once it happened. Like when the book comes out, it feels nice, but it's not like, oh, it's now all my problems are solved. This is amazing. I'm not running around the house doing cartwheels. It's really a process along the way of getting to that. And if you sacrifice too much with the process for the outcome, you got to be worried because the outcome might disappoint. You got to live.
Probably always will. Because again, if I'm just, I need to get married, again, that's why people break up so easily, because they have 3 dates and then they look at the poor idiot and like, where's this going?
Yeah.
What? So again, if you are out there and you are still dating, your default thought needs to be, I'm enjoying getting to know this person. That's it. If you're like, well, this isn't going to work, I need to break, you're going to break up, or you're going to, if it's not going anywhere, it's like, what? You just, again, it takes time to get to know somebody. So you might as well be patient and present and enjoy the journey. Because, right, if your outcome is hitched on, got to get married, got to get a boyfriend, it's like you're missing all of these amazing, awkward dates and opportunities to grow as a human being. Yay!
So next piece of advice, let's set aside dating and relationships and stuff. Let's talk about just being comfortable being alone. So that seems to be something that you're quite good at. I think I'm good at it too. I am a social person. I can be really quite extroverted, but I do like my alone time. I think it's important for me. It seems to be really important for you. How do you do being alone well?
I focus on being great company for myself. And I always think, if I'm not great company for myself, how the heck is anybody else going to want to be around me? And so I am constantly just enjoying myself. I'm delighted by myself. I am in constant self-talk mode. Again, it sounds very coachy, but I get out of bed and I'm in constant self-talk and prayer. So I am literally praying and I'm literally saying nice things about myself all day, every day. As we talk right now, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity. I'm so present and delighted. So I'm in constant self-talk. And then again, I celebrate every little moment. So again, when this is over, I will celebrate how lovely it was to spend time with you. I will think about how lovely it is that it's almost the weekend and I'm going to enjoy that. I will, I'm constantly grateful. And that's the other thing too. When people talk about gratitude, it takes practice to be grateful. Gratitude isn't just writing I love my family, I love my job, I love my car. That's not it. It's really connecting with gratitude and savoring it. And, what does my body feel like when I'm grateful? It feels amazing. So I'm in constant self-talk. I'm in constant gratitude. And it's funny because on my personal mission statement, it says, I create time for everything I want to do. My life is full of meaningful work and ridiculously fun play. I think about that all the time. So I never ask people, how are you? Because it's such like a low level question. If you ask someone how they are, they're going to say busy or tired. And that's so boring. And so I never say I'm busy. I always tell people when they say, how was your week? I always say productive, successful, because that just makes me feel better than I was busy. Busy is vague. Busy is you at the expense of the day versus what I'm doing, which is creating my day on purpose. So, yeah.
So speaking of gratitude, I have to tell you how grateful I am that you are on this podcast, because I'm like super energized right now. I am furiously writing ideas down, and I'm calling this a movement, for this movement to work, it needs exemplars. Like it needs people that you can point to and say, look at that person living a great life, and look at them doing it in a way that they're thriving and that they're being their best selves and they're being authentic to who they are and what their needs are. And so I want to, for a moment, just acknowledge that and thank you for doing this. I also know it's at the end of a very long day for you. Michael, you have a sign off, I think it's on your emails, where you say, how can I like and love myself a little more today? A little bit more today. And I really like that. I want to say, I appreciate you. Thank you for participating. And I hope you have a really wonderful weekend.
It was lovely. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Solo, the single person's guide to a remarkable life. For more about our guests and show notes, go to petermcgraw.org. Please subscribe and share with your single friends.